and welcome to the final football megapod monster pod of the year. It is Matt Brown. It is Noops Christenson. We are finally here. It took us 18 regular season weeks, 17 regular season games. We go through the playoffs. We go through a bye week, which we had a flag football game. We gave some awards out this week, and Noops, here we are. We have made it to Seattle and New England, facing off in Santa Clara in the Superb Owl number 60. And I tell you, I am intrigued by this game, though. I do want your opinion. Do you feel like this one is not getting quite the buzz that we've had in years past? Like, I don't know if it's because the star power at quarterback isn't quite there. I don't know if because one of the teams is located in Seattle. I don't know if it's because it's in San Francisco, which the stadium's actually 40 miles away, and there isn't like a hub for everybody to go in and kind of start to create the hype machine for all of this. Like, I don't know what it is, but I haven't really gotten the Super Bowl feel for this one.
I think there's a lot of factors at play here. You know, in terms of stuff this season, one of the things that I've really thought about and heard a lot about for the last couple weeks, there wasn't really that many great NFL teams this year. You think about it, the Seahawks were great. The Rams were great. The Eagles were pretty good. The Jaguars were pretty good. The Patriots were pretty good. You know, the Broncos were pretty good. So I don't know if you had that sort of season-long buildup of it's going to be this team and that team. We're really going to have that. And then we've been spoiled the previous, 2 to 3 seasons where there's big historical implications. And not that this Super Bowl doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as last year, the Chiefs going for 3 straight. It doesn't matter as much as Patrick Mahomes generally be involved, not just because he's so popular, but because he is someone that we are now actively and constantly comparing to Joe Montana and Tom Brady and some of these historical guys. I mean, we're at the point where this weekend we're going to get to watch 2 really good football teams, a Seahawks team that's been arguably the best team in football all season, a Patriots team that's been the best probably story in terms of rags to riches, Drake Maye and Mike Vrabel. Is this the beginning of another New England dynasty? Again, from a Seattle side, you've got this incredible defense. Maybe Sam Darnold finally is an actual real good quarterback. Maybe it was just the Jets' fault this whole time. So I agree. There has been less fanfare, but I also think it makes sense. I don't think it's because people aren't excited for the Super Bowl. There just isn't as much historical context, historical importance to this game this weekend. You know, we'll probably all remember this for the rest of our lives because we remember every Super Bowl, but I don't know if we sit and bouncing our kids off our knees going, do you remember when Sam Darnold hit Jackson Smith-Njigba? Or boy, oh boy, that Ramondre Stevenson, I think Drake Maye is going to be great. We're going to talk about him forever, but it does seem like we're just going to watch a football game with some guys and maybe not people who are automatically first ballot Hall of Famers.
The good thing about this, though, is you can make a game more interesting by betting on it. And we have bets in this one to make this game a little bit more interesting. It is sitting 4.5 across the industry. It is 45.5 everywhere, except for Circa and Fanatics, who are at a flat 45 right now. Noops, once we got to 4.5, pretty much been stuck in the mud here at 4.5. I do wonder what you think here. It's Friday, probably the bulk of the casual money is still yet to come. Do you think we get any movement on this line, or do you think when it's all said and done on Sunday afternoon, it's probably just going to be at 4.5?
Yeah, based on all the information I've seen, and I am, to maybe take a step back, I'm generally someone that is not overly concerned about ticket counts and money counts. I generally find that information to be at best obfuscated and not really something that is something I'm really looking at. But this game particularly,
agree. I mean, you don't know when the money came. You don't know at what number. You don't know what area, all the different things like that.
Exactly. But in this particular case, because we have 2 weeks, and like you said, the number hasn't moved, but all I've heard from everyone who reports on this, our buddies like Ben Fox, Patrick Everson, who do great jobs at reporting this stuff, talking to sportsbook directors across not only Vegas, but the United States and even some people offshore, they are all saying they have a ton of Seahawks money, but they have not moved this line. So to me, that kind of just says maybe they're worried they're going to get a bunch of Patriots money come Sunday, because as we know, as longtime bettors, and a lot of people who watch this are probably aware, the public generally goes with underdogs. You have the general underdog bias, where when you bet on an underdog, it's a combination of the higher payout, but also the lower expectations. It's more fun to win a bet on something or someone that wasn't expected to win. Whereas if you bet on the favorite, you either win like you were supposed to or you lose. Now, of course, that's kind of nuts because this isn't binary, but I think, again, there'll be some money coming on the Patriots, but I also wonder, too, if some of these sharp bookmakers maybe just haven't seen any sharp money come in on Seattle or New England yet. No real big bets on either side because, again, like you said, it's Super Bowl lines, and maybe this is also a function of the fact that we're at 4.5, kind of a dead zone, whereas in previous years, it was kind of in that tic-tac zone of -1.5, so we're jumping back from -1.5, +1.5, but it does stick in the back of my mind, Matt, that I have heard all week from anybody who's been interviewed. We have tons and tons of Seahawks money. We need the Patriots. We need the Patriots, but we haven't moved the line. We haven't moved it to 5.5, moved it through that dead zone. We haven't tried to taunt guys with 6 here. So I am fascinated by the fact that it's been so stable, and I'm curious to see again if they do try to soak in some Patriots money on Sunday. Does this go to 5.5, maybe touch 6 for a few minutes, or is this it? Is this the line?
Yeah. And since it's a Super Bowl, you do get a lot more money line bets than typical. Right now, -220 is the best number you can get on Seattle. That's if you're in a circa market. If you're not in a circa market, the best is -230. No, 225 at Fanatics if you're in a Fanatics market, and 230 DraftKings, which is everywhere. And if you want New England, you're getting 202 actually at the score bet. So if you are in a score bet market, you can get plus 202 right there. Of the big boys, that is everywhere, plus 195 at MGM on New England. Now, market low of 190 at Circa. So best number on Seattle, worst number on New England. That is due to they took a very early $1.1 million bet on New England money line, and so they are trying to entice people to come in and give some of that money back there on Seattle. So they are lopsided right now. Probably won't be come kickoff, but just one of the reasons why, if you're wondering, like, well, does this mean I should be betting? No, they're just trying to they're trying to balance some stuff right now over there at Circa. So it's not, where we reference Circa as being more of a sharp book. They just literally as the line opened, they took a huge bet on New England. So they're trying to get back to even over there. So for me, I laid it, Noops. Look, I had a ton of Rams futures, as everybody knows who listened to this podcast all year long. Didn't get home. I thought whoever won the NFC was going to win the Super Bowl. I stick to that. I bet 4.5 on Seattle. I took it all the way out to 13.5. So I have 6.5, 7.5, 9.5, 10.5, and then I have 13.5 as well here on Seattle. I think if we're talking about the tails outcomes here, I think the Seattle blowout is in the range of outcomes, where I don't feel like the New England blowout is in the range of outcomes. So that's kind of where I sit from a spread perspective. I think Seattle's basically better at almost every position on the field. I know we can kind of tic-tac argue and things like that or whatever about some of this other stuff, but I think that there is very few true, real advantages on the New England side.
Yeah, and I tend to agree. From a holistic perspective, I would take the Seattle roster over the New England roster. But if I'm looking at New England specifically, I like the Patriots quarterback better. I like the Patriots coach better. And Sam Darnold's been really good. I don't believe that whatever his oblique injury or whatever that is going to linger or have any problems. I just think Drake May's better. I think he runs better. He throws the ball deep. I loved what he did in the AFC Championship game, calling his own number, basically giving himself a chance to win that game. And Vrabel is someone who, I don't think he's one of the best coaches in the league, but I think he's very good. And I'm concerned about Mike McDonald, who has been one of the most conservative coaches in the NFL all season. I'm worried that at the beginning of this game, the Seahawks are going to kick some field goals that they wish maybe were fourth down attempts, or they wish maybe they try to push for touchdowns more here in and more out. So I have placed a little bit of money on the Patriots money line with the under as well, because I agree with also what you said.
Highly correlated, in my opinion. Yes, like
exactly.
I don't think they win a firefight like by any stretch. Like, I think definitely it's a lower scoring kind of battled out rock fight for the Patriots side. So I think that bet for sure is correlated.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I've been doing, putting those two together because Vrabel not only understands when to be aggressive, but he also understands how to control game flow. I don't think that it was necessarily a surprise or a coincidence in the AFC Championship game that all they did the second half was just kind of run the ball and punt as much as they can. They knew they had that 3-point lead. They knew that they could basically just continue to squeeze that Broncos offense like a boa constrictor and just hold on. Now, Seattle's offense is obviously much better, but if the Patriots can get a lead here and play from ahead, I think they can control this game. And if they do, it's very underful. So I've been playing some Patriots and some under. I like the under anyway. I don't think that this is a game where, as much as either offense could score points, I don't think either offense is scoring 3-4 touchdowns, the amount of touchdowns you're going to need from one team to get this number over the total. Both are happy to grind this game out, to run the ball, to let the clock go. So I have played some under. That's probably my biggest bet of the overall markets, but a little Patriots money line and basically a full unit on the under for me.
Kind of leaning into your conservative talk here for Seattle, they only went for 2-3 times throughout the course of the regular season. They only went for it on fourth down 11 times over the course of the entire regular season. So you can kind of see where they tend to lean with all of that. It is a much more conservative, I understand, last game of the year and yada yada, and everybody thinks, and you'll hear this in some of my bets a little bit later, that I don't necessarily buy into teams just go crazy just because it's a Super Bowl.
Right.
But I don't think that you really changed your fundamentals here, and that's kind of like, that would be a fundamental change to his thinking and how he does and his process, and that doesn't seem very likely in my opinion.
No, absolutely not. And as we start to talk too about some of the matchups here, from Seattle's side of the ball, from Seattle's offense versus New England's defense, I think that New England's defense has been solid, but again, and I hate to be one of these schedule has been weak guys because everyone's schedule's kind of been weak here, but this offense is going to be much better. However, the Seahawks are a little limited with just Kenneth Walker and JSN as kind of their two best athletes, and we'll see after a couple weeks. Their left tackle Cross, he's probably going to play. But without Charbonnet, I'm wondering if there's a way the Patriots can draw up some blitzes here and take advantage of the lack of protection. At the same time, on the other side of the ball, we've seen how weak the Patriots' left side of the offensive line has been against some very good defenses, and the Seahawks defense just as good, if not better than that. It's probably the easiest thing to say, Matt, is turnovers probably decide this game. If either team has 2 turnovers or gets a 1-2 turnover lead here, that's probably just enough to decide the fate of these teams. But again, I'm just expecting kind of a defense-heavy game and maybe not an ugly football game, but I'm not expecting fireworks at any point.
Yeah, I would like to say that while I am kind of heavy on the Seahawks in this one, I don't think that this is like a foregone conclusion that they win this game, because I do see a couple of different ways in which this gets home for them. First and foremost, like you just said, I mean, turnovers. I understand Darnold was good for the vast majority of the season, but he had 2 interception games and he had a 4 interception game, right? And while those were definitely few and far between, I mean, he was very good the vast majority of the season. If this happens to be a 2 interception game, 3 interception game, God forbid a 4 interception game, then this thing can be turned on its head. And you are looking at a fundamental difference on the Patriots side as to how they play defense over the second half of the season and into the playoffs, where they didn't blitz very much the first half of the season. No. And then they started turning it up the second half and then have gone absolutely nuclear here in the playoffs, where they're blitzing at nearly a 50% rate. And if you look at how Sam Darnold is versus a clean pocket and when pressured, as with most quarterbacks, obviously these statistics are going to be worse, but his are exponentially worse. I'm not going to say not necessarily like fall off a cliff type territory, but definitely way lower than when it is. So if you look like from a clean pocket, 7th in EPA per attempt, 1st in yards per attempt, 8th in completion rate, 3rd in explosive rate. Then when pressured, 23 EPA per attempt, 12th yards per attempt, 10th in completion rate, 18th in explosive rate. And biggest, I think, of that is 31st in interception rate, where that's where all of his interceptions came from this season. Every single interception but one for Sam Darnold was when he was pressured over the course of the season. I mean, it's just one of those deals where if this blitz gets home and if they make life difficult for Sam Darnold, I do think that this game takes on a whole different complexion, because that is the real X factor in all of this. He's been great if he has a clean pocket. I just read you the stats, but it certainly goes way, way, way down when not.
No, absolutely. And it's exactly what I was talking about. And it's like you said, when the left tackle is not healthy, and again, they're missing Charbonnet, and that's the combination. I mean, Charbonnet is a talented player. Kenneth Walker is a much better runner of the ball. He's a better receiver of the ball, but he's not as good of a pass blocker. That's why you saw Charbonnet in on third downs, especially long third downs for them, to pass protect, at the end of games to pass protect. Now, we'll see if the Patriots can dial that stuff up. I think that Milton Williams, the defensive tackle for New England, has been one of the most underrated players in terms of impact all season, and we've seen it over the last couple of weeks. I think it's no surprise that once Milton Williams returned, the Patriots' run defense got back to being tight. The pass rush was there again. So I think you're right. If I'm Seattle, if I'm McDonald, I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to identify blitzes, getting better at calling them out, and just finding a way to have some more protections. Let's play some more fullback. Let's play some more tight ends. Let's get as much protection there as we can, and just let Rashid Shaheed, let Jackson Smith and Jigba do their thing, and let's just try to run the ball and win the game.
And as far as another matchup thing here that I'm very intrigued about, Noops, and we won't know until they take the field, right? So the Patriots play a lot of man. Now, listen, we live in an NFL right now where zone coverage is king, and so when I say play a lot of man, that really, I mean, that means like
sometimes they play
of the
man.
time. Right? I mean, so it's still 65% of the time they're playing zone, but they were particularly heavy on man on third and fourth downs and running man nearly 50% of the time. I would guess Seattle would welcome that because JSN is almost unguardable. And so, like, I'm wondering if we see kind of a fundamental shift on that aspect as well from the Patriots, because this Seahawks team faced the least amount of man coverage in all of the NFL this past season because they have this guy named JSN who just is a man beat, who's going to destroy man coverage. And so I do wonder if the Patriots, like I said, it's 2 weeks to prepare. Over these 2 weeks have decided, you know what? We're gonna play a lot more zone than we normally do here because JSN is going to torch, even if it is Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is good. Right. Christian Gonzalez is not in the Derek Stingley, like what are all these like lockdown. He's not in that realm when we talk about like lockdown corners. So he's a good corner. He's not like a dude that you just go, okay, follow this guy around and he's dead. Like that's not how we're gonna get. Well, he's not a Sauce Gardner or anything like that. So, I'm curious to see what they do there as well, because I think if you're Seattle, you are welcoming as much man coverage as the Patriots want to throw at you.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if we see some hybrid stuff again with 2 weeks. Vrabel's a very creative defensive play caller. I wonder if we see some stuff where like JSN side of the field is going to go zone, but the other side of the field, wherever Shaheed is, Cooper Kupp is, we'll just leave you guys in man. Again, Kupp still really good as a possession receiver, but really has struggled to get open. I think you can put him in man coverage. And, you know, Shaheed is as fast as anybody on the field, but it takes him time to get down the field to really generate the distance and gap that he needs. And it's a tough throw for Darnold. So, again, if I'm New England, I spent the week trying to figure out how can I draw up some looks where maybe it's, again, a hybrid, a little man, a little zone. Am I double, even triple teaming JSN and just kind of daring the Seahawks to take your time, wait for Shaheed to get open, and maybe you can make that throw. But we're going to take our chances that in that 3.5 seconds, we can get to you, maybe sack you, at the very least get you out of the pocket and just kind of tear all this down.
Yeah, and, you know, we get to Super Bowl weekend because we have 2 weeks to break down the game. It's only one game, and then also we're getting a whole bunch of opinions of people who maybe don't get into the weeds near as much as you and I do throughout the course of the regular season. I'm not sitting here and I'm not going to like shit on all these people as we're on this podcast or whatever, but allow me to shit on these people for just a second. Because like you start to hear all this stuff that if you just understand how these teams work, it's not really likely. That's not to say it won't happen, but it's like, it's unlikely, right? Where you look and everyone's like, well, you can just put Christian Gonzalez on JSN. And then they're all like, no, you cannot. Like you cannot just put Christian Gonzalez on JSN. For one, Christian Gonzalez isn't really a shadow corner anyway. He's shadowed like 5 games this year. Like, I mean, this is not a dude that you just put on the other team's best receiver every single week. And by the way, if you go in, what was really curious to me about the games in which he did shadow, it was not against teams that had strong wide receiver ones. So like, I actually thought that was super interesting to me, where he was shadowing against the Jets, against the Ravens, against the Saints, against the Bucks when Mike Evans was hurt. So he was like shadowing Egbuka or whatever and stuff like that. Like, so they actually chose to use him to shadow in games where like the wide receiver one wasn't a stud. It was more like, hey, he can handle this dude. And so that's fine. That's how we're going to try and go and do that. Right. And so I don't think that's even in the realm of possibility. Like, I think that is a death sentence to put Christian Gonzalez on JSN. So, like, you keep hearing this stuff about, well, you just do this. And I was like, one, that's not how they play defense anyway. And two, I think that's how you lose the game. Like, honestly, I think you lose the game. That's how JSN ends up with a 12, 160 and 2 touchdown line in this game.
It's Seattle's biggest advantage. They have the 2 best skill position players in this game. Kenneth Walker's the best running back in the game. Say what you will about Travion Henderson's upside, Ramondre Stevenson's consistency when he's not fumbling the ball. Kenneth Walker's the best running back in this game, and Jackson Smith-Njigba is the best receiver in this game by a wide margin. So I think, again, if you're Seattle, I agree with you. If you pick up your head and you're Sam Darnold and you kind of move some motion guys and you say Christian Gonzalez stand right there on top of JSN and everybody else is moving around, it doesn't matter what the play call is. I'm not even looking to anybody else. I'm hiking the ball and staring dead at him until he is open and throwing him the ball. So I agree. It's one of those things, too, where if you're playing Seattle, and we'll get into some more props and stuff like that, if I'm doing Seattle, it's Seattle and JSN to score a touchdown, Seattle and some JSN overs. I think that there are very few ways that Seattle wins this game without JSN having a big performance and Kenneth Walker having a big performance.
2 quarterback props for me, Noops. I have Sam Darnold as MVP. Obviously, if I like Seattle, I have to like Sam Darnold to win MVP. That is just it pretty much goes hand in hand. Yes, there is a world that exists where JSN, like we just talked about, has 12 for 160 and 2 touchdowns. But like, if that's the case, he is plus 550 right now to have to win MVP, and he is plus 675 to have 2+ touchdowns. You do the math. I'm probably just going to play him to have 2+ touchdowns and then take the vote out of it, because I don't think there's a world that exists where if he just has a normal JSN game, the 9 for 105 and a touchdown, like, I don't think they're going to give it to him. I think it's going to be Sam Darnold. And not to play narrative street here and all of that, but we are but human and we are flawed and our brains are flawed. And just yesterday, JSN won an award. And I think there are people who are going to vote on this who'd be like, well, he just won Offensive Player of the Year. Let's give this to Sam Darnold. Let's give Super Bowl MVP to Sam Darnold. Like, this guy just won an award on Thursday. He doesn't need another award. Sam Darnold, great story, out of the, getting kicked to the curb and all that. Let's give it to him. So that's just a little bit more to add on there, that we are human, and we just voted him an award on Thursday. So I think that could, at least in the back of some people's minds, play a role as well.
Well, Matt, I don't think you need to apologize at all for going to Narrative Street for awards, because that's what awards are. Awards are feelings and gut emotions where voters, a very small group of guys, and I think it's like a 15, 20-minute period towards the end of the game, all have to decide who the Super Bowl MVP is. And we saw it with the awards that were given out yesterday. We see it in awards for every other sport. It is all narrative. It is all simple things. And I agree, unless JSN has 2 touchdowns, it's going to be tough for him. I've got 2 Super Bowl MVPs I like. One is one is more narrative-y. One is just kind of a numbers play. I'll start with that one. Hunter Henry is 125-1 to be MVP in the Super Bowl. I'm going to be playing that, as well as Hunter Henry to score 2+ touchdowns. At the end of the day, he has been Drake May's favorite target pretty much all season. And the Seattle defense, like any defense, there's a hole in any defense. No matter how good you are, for Seattle, it's at the tight end position. They've been bottom 10 against tight ends in just about every metric all year. So love me some Hunter Henry. We'll be playing him to score a touchdown, first touchdown, 2+ touchdowns, but definitely some MVP. The one that's a little more narrative-y, Matt, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, I think, has a chance to not only catch a touchdown in this game, but throw a touchdown. He is someone who I believe was a quarterback either at high school or even for a little bit in college. We saw him with the Rams throw touchdown passes, threw, I think, 2 passes already this season for the Seahawks, and we've seen footage of him in practice all for the last 2 weeks working on some stuff throwing the ball here. So, again, in a situation, in a game where, again, I expect it to be low scoring, any player that has a chance to generate 2 touchdowns has value when it comes to an MVP standpoint. And maybe Kupp even just catches 2 in a game where, as we've talked about, if you're New England, you're planning for JSN all week. You're not putting in all sorts of interesting coverages and game plans for Cooper Kupp, which means if JSN's covered, Darnold's got to go elsewhere, and there's nobody better in big games, especially with the extra rest for a veteran player here. Cooper Kupp, I'm seeing any as high as 90-1 to be the Super Bowl MVP. So those are my 2 MVP picks. Again, long shots. I'm generally a long shot better when it comes to stuff like this. Give me Cooper Kupp 90-1 or better, Hunter Henry 100-1 or better, and again, all the other associated props with those guys. First touchdown, anytime touchdown, 2+ as well.
Yeah, my Darnold MVP at plus 130 is almost a hedge on the minus 4.5, where it's like if they win by a field goal, I at least still win something. It's like I think it's, again, highly correlated there. My other quarterback play, Drake Maye most rush yards in the game at 7-1. I do not think either one of these teams is going to be able to run the ball very well. I have a ton of respect for both of these defensive lines. There was a little bit of a lull for the Patriots in the middle of the season whenever Milton Williams was hurt. But like, if you take those games out and he's in there with Barmore, they have been very elite. And then on the other side, Seattle, we can continue to talk about their defense we'll do this all podcast. But again, they've been great everywhere, including stopping the run with that. And I do wonder if Drake Maye, like you just said, might have to kind of take on a bigger role in this game, and that might mean running the ball, even some designed runs for him outside of just the scrambles and things like that. And so with that, a defensive line that's going to create a bunch of pressure too. So we know more pressure, more opportunities to run. So is there a world that exists where Drake Maye gets to like 42 rushing yards and that's the highest rusher in the game? Maybe. Does it happen 1 out of 7 times? I only need it to happen 1 out of 7 times. And so 7-1 for me on Drake Maye to lead the game in rush yards.
I like that quite a bit, and it ties into another Drake Maye bet I like. Quarterbacks run more in the postseason. In must-win games, they run more. During the regular season, quarterbacks know and are coached to get rid of the ball. It is not worth risking to get injured for 3-4 extra yards or to maybe even pick up a first down in the regular season. In this game, in playoff games, in the Super Bowl, it is. Again, to quote Dan Fouts, last game of the year, we can't hold anything back, folks. And I'm not expecting Drake Maye to. So I like that quite a bit. I'll play his rushing yards over. And again, we'll skip all the bases. We'll probably just go up to some alts. Give me 30+, 40+, even 50+. And then Drake Maye to score a touchdown. I'm seeing that plus 270. First touchdown anywhere from 12-1 to as high as 14-1. And again, 2+. And just a general thing, folks. I'm talking about playing somebody to score. I'm playing a first touchdown as well, and probably for 2+, especially some of these bigger guys. And you hit the nail on the head. The left side of that line, Will Campbell, and apologies, I can't remember their left guard's name. They have struggled all season, and especially the last couple weeks. The Seahawks have 2 or 3 just unbelievably good pass rushers. I wonder if you're New England, you just went back and watched that Houston Texans game tape over and over and over again and tried to figure out the problems that you had there, because a lot of those same problems are going to stick up. And we saw in that game, Drake Maye ran the ball a lot. I'm sure he ran for a touchdown there, but had opportunities to do so. I agree. I like all the Drake Maye rushing stuff, and I'll be playing Drake Maye first touchdown anytime and 2+ as well.
Is there, that does it for me for quarterback props. Do you have any more quarterback props, or should we move on to running backs here?
Yeah, nothing more from a quarterback perspective. As far as running backs go, again, things are a little bit limited here. I was thinking about maybe Travion Henderson to be MVP. I'm just not sure the workload is there. I think that if you're looking for some Patriots to bet for MVP, Ramondre and Travion, maybe take like a small bet on each of them. I think there's a chance, again, when I'm thinking about MVPs, I'm looking for guys who can either have 100 yards of something or score 2 touchdowns. And I think those are the best options there. But nothing really stood out to me in a big way from a running back perspective. I know everybody in the world is betting Kenneth Walker rush yards under. I'm not sure I agree with that, but what do you got?
Well, Then you can go ahead and disagree with me here because I did bet Kenneth Walker rush yards under in this. I just don't think either one of these teams is going to have very much success on the ground. I mean, like if you look, it has been very, very, very tough to get anything going against New England all year long. And I don't think McDonald is the type of guy, and maybe he is, but I don't think he's the type of guy to kind of like bang his head into the wall 50 million times, like over and over and over and over again. Like it just doesn't seem like that is, one, the right way to go, and two, the highest probability for you to win this game, you know? And so Walker under 73.5 rush yards. And typically I wait to play unders, but I actually hear a bunch of negative sentiment about Walker, and you just said the same deal. And so like, I don't know if this number is going to climb. Like where we usually wait for numbers to climb and then bet unders later on, like pretty much game day. I don't think this is going to climb.
No, it's dropped. I'm trying to pull up the current number right now, but I know it opened the week in the mid to high 70s, and I think we're now down into like the mid to high 60s, which, again, for a Super Bowl, and now a Super Bowl is a little bit different, but from a rushing prop to move that much, okay, I'm seeing it at 72.5, so it looks like we've stabilized a little bit here. Maybe there has been some buyback to the over. I guess my only thought on the over is if Seattle gets the lead early here and they're trying to put the ball away, I agree that neither team is going to have a running back that has an efficient game. There just might be so many carries for Walker. Again, given there's no Charbonnet, given how limited experience Hulani, his backup, has in this game, maybe he does get 25 carries somehow.
Yeah, and I think this can go south for me if this ends up on the far end of my tails, because obviously if this is like a 10.5 point win, you know, if I'm cashing a 10.5 ticket or a 13.5 ticket, then Kenneth Walker doesn't even have to be efficient. He's just going to get there on volume alone. So there is a way that this goes south for me there. I have Travion Henderson over 2.5 receiving yards. Wow. He caught a pass in 13 of 17 regular season games, and he got there every time. Obviously, you only need 3 yards.
Yep.
The 4 games he didn't catch a pass, Noops, like I think you'll catch the pattern of this. 31-13, 32-13, 42-10, and 38-10. Huh. It was the 4 games they had blowout wins. And so like they just didn't need him in the pass game. But every other game he caught a pass during the regular season. He caught pass in 2 of the 3 playoff games, didn't in that wonky Denver game. But I mean, they didn't even run an offense in the second half in that game. Like they didn't, you know, there was no offense at all in the second half of that one. So I need 1 catch out of Travion Henderson. I think he plays a little bit. I think he gets back into more his normal role here in this game. No weather to worry about, no, like trying to kind of function this offense as highly as possible and as efficiently as possible. So it's basically 1 catch for Travion Henderson.
I love that. That makes a ton of sense to me. Like you said, 2.5 yards. And again, if this is the Super Bowl, we always talk about the deli menu, that it's never been bigger. So give me over 2.5 yards. Give me 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus. He is someone who, again, can break one here. And there is a situation, too, where if you think about some play designs, if Seahawks really sell out blitzing or kind of rushing too many guys, there is a situation where there's a play action pass, kind of a quick screen, something like that. And Henderson, who's such a dynamic athlete, is just sprinting down the field. So I like that quite a bit. Would even encourage you to play some alts.
The last running back one for me, and this is kind of like a hybrid type deal. It's not necessarily straight up running back, but I have under 7.5 total players to have a rush attempt. And that's mainly because this got up to 2-1. And so I'm getting 2-1 of my money here, Noops. And like, here's the deal. All right. We're watching on video, so we can easily do this. The 2 running backs on both teams. So there we go. There's 4. The 2 quarterbacks, though there were 6 games in which Sam Darnold didn't have a carry this year, but I still think he has a carry this year. So we're at 6 right there. So we have to have an end around and we have to have a tush push in order for this to get home, right? And so, and it very well might happen, but you have to get in a situation for a tush push for that AJ Barner carry. Like you have to get there for that. I keep hearing people say like, oh, JSN, blah, blah, blah. JSN had 4 carries all season long. Like JSN is not so it's a Rashid Shaheed carry that you're hoping for there Shaheed. In that one. Like, it doesn't make any sense to do an end around with JSN for 5 yards for him to get lit up by a linebacker. Like that's the last thing you want on the face of the planet, is for this dude to take a massive hit from a dude that weighs 100 pounds more than he does. And so, again, this is more of kind of a number play. I think this has a decent chance to get home, but at 2-1, you need it to kind of run pure, right? Like, you need to get in a tush push situation. You need to get an end around in some way, shape, or form. You need Darnold, who, again, most games did have a carry, but 6 games did not have a carry. You need him to get a carry, and that's a scramble because there's never any design runs for Sam Darnold. So I took the under 7.5 at plus 198.
Yeah, I like that. I'm just going back and looking. These are 2 teams that actually use fullbacks. For those of you that are too young, fullback is the guy who used to stand in front of the running back and block for him, occasionally get quick handoffs, tosses, and stuff like that. But Seattle actually carries 2 of them. Robbie Oots, our outs, apologies to Robbie, and Brady Russell. I don't believe that they have had, no carries really. Brady Russell has had a single carry all year, just 1 receiving target. Oos, again, same thing, 1 receiving target in the playoffs, nothing for the rest of the season. Jack Westover for the Patriots, I think, has had a carry. So I like that. I think that's one of those. It was something Captain Jack was actually talking about in one of his Super Bowl prop betting videos. When you're betting props, think about what people want to see and bet the opposite of it. And I think that this fits that perfectly. People want to see some weird runs, some JSN tosses, some double reverses. Let's find some player we've never seen. Let's give fullbacks the ball. Let's have tight ends handing it to tight ends and goofy stuff like that. So you're right. I understand why it's at 7.5, but you need a lot of things. You need a Darnold carry, which maybe he somehow avoids running around and getting sacked. Maybe he avoids kneeling down at the end of the game. You need an A.J. Barner carry, stuff like that. You need a Rashid Shaheed carry. It's a very fragile situation for someone who has the over.
Any more running back stuff for you?
No more running back stuff for me.
Yeah, over on the receiver side of things, another under for me, and that is total players to catch a pass under 13.5. So we can do this math as well. We're on video, so here we go. JSN, Cooper Kupp, Ken Walker, A.J. Barner, Rashid Shaheed. There's your 5 that we are pretty confident get a catch.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, Ramondre, Travion, Diggs, Booty, Henry, we are pretty confident that all those get a catch. So now we're sitting at 10. Mac Hollins is listed at 2.5 receptions. It's not guaranteed he's going to get a catch. Let's assume he gets a catch. Now we're at 11.
I think he gets one. Yep.
So now we're at 11. We got to have a backup tight end. We got to have like a wide receiver 3 or 4, like catch a pass, like whatever. Like we're trying to get this thing to 14, and we're at 11 that we feel super confident in.
So I would
now there will be a wide receiver 3 make a catch for sure. So now we're at 12. We still have to get 2 more dudes kind of come out of nowhere to get a catch in this game. And by the way, Seattle, I don't know if you guys went in and looked at Seattle. It is like the most highly concentrated offense maybe I've ever seen in the history of offenses. Like, I couldn't even believe when I went and did this research, Noops, that you go in and, I mean, when you have a guy like JSN, of course, he's gonna garner a lot of attention or something like that. But you go in, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys on this team on the whole season that have double-digit targets on this team. There are only 8 guys that have double-digit targets. 2 of them will not be playing in this game. Zach Charbonnet and Torrey Horton are hurt and will not be playing in this game. Like, it is crazy to me. And I understand Helani probably gets a catch or whatever. Like, I'm not like throwing.
I was going to say, you got to put Helani on the list. So that gets us up to 12.
That gets us to 12. And then still needs to get a 13th and a 14th.
Right, and I'm trying to remember, was Mac Hollins part of our 12? I think he was. All right, so with Hollins and Helani, we're at 12. So like you said, if we're getting a 13 or 14, then
You
It's
need
got
like
to
the
be
second
like
string tight ends to get catches.
Demario Douglas is going to have to get a catch. This is someone who has averaged basically 2 targets a game for the last 6 weeks. Maybe someone like Austin Hooper, and we'll talk about him when we get to tight ends a little bit.
Yeah.
I think there is a chance he catches the ball here a little bit in this game. But again, like you said, we can get to 12 pretty comfortably. But those next 2 guys, again, there's a couple other names. Maybe Jake Bobo might catch a pass here. He was someone that I had circled for a different prop a little bit later.
Yeah.
I like this one. I don't like it as much as the rushing one, but again, I like where your head's at. I think people are overestimating. Once again, what people want to see is a bunch of creative plays and a bunch of guys all catching the ball because it's a Super Bowl. And, now that we live in this participation sports culture where everyone's got to play and everyone's got to get some stuff or whatever, it's not Super Bowl. It's not how that works. If the Seahawks only wanted to throw the ball to JSN, they might only throw the ball to JSN.
I was just blown. Only 8 guys on the team have double-digit targets on the entire season. It is absolutely wild to me that's how they operated. So that's where I went. One of my other receiving props is Stephon Diggs over 8.5 fourth quarter receiving yards. Now this plays into my game state because I do think, again, I have the Seahawks in this game. So I think that we're going to be looking at a trailing game state for the Patriots. And so if that is the case and you get soft coverage, those passes don't go to Booty and those passes don't go to Hollins. Those passes go to Henry and Diggs. And so like when you have guys playing off 7 yards, well, Stephon Diggs is going to run and turn around after 7 yards and make the catch and fall down. And then Hunter Henry's going to run 7 yards and he's going to make a catch and he's going to fall down. And they're just going to repeat process all the way down the field. And again, in soft coverage situations, that is exactly where Diggs and Henry thrive. Now, we don't know the game state. That's why this is at 8.5. If we knew the game state and if we knew that the Patriots were going to be down double digits in the fourth quarter or at least a touchdown in the fourth quarter, this line on Diggs would be 12.5, 13.5, 14.5, something like that. But like they have to line it like this because we don't know the game state. I'm playing into where I think it will be. And so with that, that's why I have this. And this is not to even say that he doesn't get this, even if it's a close game, right? I mean, even if this is a tightly contested game, he is certainly the guy that Drake Maye trusts a ton as well. And so I think it is a two-way bet, but it is kind of a bet into how I also think the game state was going to be. So over 8.5 fourth quarter receiving yards for Stephon Diggs.
I like that. That one makes a lot of sense to me. As for wide receiver props, already talked about Cooper Kupp again, playing his touchdown, Super Bowl MVP, all that stuff. I did mention Jake Bobo. You might not be familiar with Mr. Bobo, but he is a really good possession receiver, someone who has carved out a nice role on this team. Now, again, he doesn't have double-digit targets, but has seen a couple targets in the last few games. And as a Seahawks team that seems to move away from using Rashid Shaheed, unless they want him, kind of in that, I think it's the Z receiver or the X receiver, whoever the guy is who just runs down the field because he's real, real fast. Unless he is in that role, when they get into the red zone, they put Shaheed on the bench and bring Bobo out here. Again, he's had, I think it's 3 targets over the last 2 weeks. 2 of them are in the red zone, and it's very much a long shot, folks. There's a chance he doesn't see the field and get a target here in this game, but I'm seeing 10-1 for him to score a touchdown. Again, in a matchup where I think there's going to have to be a lot of short throws. It's going to be a lot more of kind of possession receiver based for Seattle. I'm going to go with Jake Bobo to score a touchdown.
So I would like to point out that where we're, where I kind of just added Shaheed in there as like getting a catch, and like you kind of just said now too, where they get away from him. Since he got to Seattle, I would like to point this out at least. He is not their wide receiver too. He got there. There's a game with 1 target, a game with 2 targets, 3 games in a row with 1 target, another game with 2 targets, another game with only 3 targets, which he only caught 1 for 51 yards in that game against the Rams last week, but he only caught 1 pass. That was at the very beginning of the game. Like, this is not a dude that is utilized heavily in this offense at all. And so there are 1, 2, 3, 4 zero burgers as far as receptions for him since he went over to Seattle as well. It's like he's there to serve a purpose, which is like you have to account for him because he can run past you. And like that, obviously that was the reason we've had several of these receivers that like never have any stats, but like you're like, that guy's still in the league, and it's like, yeah, because he can still run fast in a straight line, and it's like he serves a purpose.
Matters.
Like, yeah, he's doing what he is supposed to do. He's a professional sprinter more than he is a wide receiver, but that helps with some of these other dudes and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I do think that there's a world that exists where Shaheed doesn't do anything here, and it's like more like somebody else.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And Bobo is the guy who, again, as someone I really do like long shots, that's where I tend to find more value, especially in games like this where you see the prices on some of the favorites. As someone who bets touchdowns all year, I assure you the JSN price is a lot more expensive than it usually is, as is the Kenneth Walker price, the Ramondre price, the Travion price. But this Bobo price, again, someone who seems to be a red zone specialist for them, it's too high. And as crazy as it sounds, on a recorded show that will live on forever, Jake Bobo scoring a touchdown.
Anything else for you with receivers?
No. You want to move on to tight ends?
Let's do it. Tight ends.
Tight ends for me, again, talked about Hunter Henry. Love this game for him. If you're going to do any sort of DFS stuff, I'm going to have some Hunter Henry captain lineups, things like that. Super Bowl MVP, 2+ touchdowns, first touchdown, all that good stuff. But also the other Patriots tight end, Austin Hooper. He is someone who has gotten at least 2 targets in all but a handful of games, is someone that Drake Maye looks for in the red zone, had a couple chances to throw him touchdowns in the last couple playoff games. One hit Hooper right in the hands. He dropped it. Maybe he drops it again here, but he's someone, as I look at it, his touchdown price is 7-1. I think that's a really great bet. And then the tight end for Seattle that we've mentioned a couple times already, A.J. Barner. He is, without a doubt, the number 2 pass catcher in this offense. JSN is 1, again, by a wide margin. But you look at Barner, I think he's 3rd in targets. He's 2nd in red zone targets, 2nd in end zone targets. And we know he's the tush push guy. Now, I know the tush push thing is something I think people overvalue a little bit. As you go back and look, goal and one is very rare, especially with how much passing we have in the games today and things like that. But if there is goal and one, they probably handed to Kenneth Walker the first time, but the second and third times, we're probably looking at some A.J. Barner tush push stuff here. So Barner to score a touchdown as well as the first touchdown. He's 12-1 to score first. I'm seeing for him to score it all is plus 240. I love all of that.
Yeah, I don't have anything in there for tight ends currently, so maybe I'll have to like look into your stuff a little bit more here and see if there's something that I want to.
Yeah, get yourself some Barner touchdown stuff. Barner over half a rush yard is probably a dumb bet, but it's fun.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of a mini hedge on my under 7.5 rushers as well, because like he would have to do that, would almost have to play into that getting over. So,
and you could middle. He could actually get a rush, and you could still go under.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting little hedge there in that. I'm going to, as we're sitting here, a little, there we go. All right. So I have over 5.5 total sacks in the game. I have mentioned that I respect both of these defensive lines. I think that there is a world that exists where both of these guys take multiple sacks. I mean, here's the deal. Drake Maye was awesome this year. There's no doubt about it. If there was a fault in Drake Maye's game, and he's just a young quarterback. I mean, he will get better at this. They will work with him, and he will start to feel pressure better than he does currently. But as we head into this, games with 4 sacks, 3 sacks, 5 sacks, 4 sacks, 4 sacks, 6 sacks, 6 sacks, 3 sacks, 3 sacks, 3 sacks, 5 sacks, 5 sacks, 5 sacks over the course of the season. And if you go into his pressure to sack ratio in the playoffs in particular, and I think this probably is just him trying not to do anything stupid. And there's something to be said for that. I think that's smart. But again, against the Chargers, 63% pressure to sack ratio. Against the Texans, 56% pressure to sack ratio. Against Denver, 71% pressure to sack ratio for Drake Maye. And this is a defensive line that gets home. Like, they are going to create pressure on Drake Maye in this game. And so I'm kind of confidently sitting at 3 or 4 from Seattle towards Drake Maye. And then again, 1 or 2 from Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold, for all of the things that we've said about him or whatever, the thing that he did mostly this season was eliminate the bonehead plays and stuff. And sometimes that means just taking a sack. You don't always have to throw the ball. And when you do, because sometimes bad, horrible things happen when you just throw the ball up and you have no idea what's going on. And so over 5.5 sacks in this game for me, it was only at -110. So I didn't get plus money or anything like that on this one. But I think we see these defenses show out a little bit and these quarterbacks a little less apt to do something stupid. And I think that's actually okay. Sometimes the best play is to take the sack and not risk fumbling or throwing a pick or whatever, anything like that. So over 5.5 sacks for me.
I like that. As far as game props go, there is one angle. I play this just about every Super Bowl, and especially in Super Bowls where it's a lot of players' first time. There is, for the first time in a couple of years, like we talked about at the top of the show, this is pretty much everybody's first Super Bowl. You've got a couple guys on each roster that have been there with either teams, but this is going to be everyone's first time. And it's more than just nerves. The Super Bowl is the strangest football game of the year from a timing perspective. For the entire season, you come out, you warm up, they sing one song, you kick off and play. You come out, you warm up this year, we got to sing, lift every voice and sing, America the Beautiful. And then we're going to sing the national anthem with commercial breaks in between each, with longer commercial breaks before the game itself actually starts. You've seen time and time again. I think it's, if you go through and look, I think it was the last 15 Super Bowls I looked at without repeat teams. The first quarter of those games have been very, very low scoring. Several first quarters that any score whatsoever. So I load up on kind of slow start props, and there's a bunch of different ways you can attack this. So again, go through all your books, try to think of different wording. There's lots of different ways to find this stuff. But for starters, neither team to score in their first drive. That's plus 160. That's already in the count. That's already in my account. No team to score. First 7.5 minutes, that's plus 100. There was less options to that. A lot of years I could usually find 7.5 minutes, 8.5, 9.5, etc., but was able to find no score in the first 7.5 minutes, plus 100, no score in the first 10 minutes, plus 270. And then you can just play some first quarter unders. The first quarter under 7.5, I'm seeing minus 120. Under 3.5 is plus 225. And then struggled to find an exact score of 0-0 anywhere. That should be around plus 500, plus 600. We'll see if it pops up again in the next day or so. But the other way to look at this is the first quarter ended a tie, plus 300, 0-0, 3-3. We see this happen quite a bit. But again, at the end of the day, it's not just the butterflies in your stomach. It's the fact that your body has been trained your entire life to play football games with a certain rhythm, to go from warm-up to playing in a certain period of time is all thrown out of whack, basically, in this game. So I think this game's going to start slow like every other Super Bowl has. So find a bunch of creative ways to do it again. Neither team to score in the first drive, plus 160. No score first 7 minutes, 30 seconds, plus 100. No score first 10 minutes, plus 270. And then first quarter under 7.5, minus 120. Under 3.5, plus 225. And then a tie at the end of the first quarter, plus 300. And if you can find 0-0 at plus 600 or better, add that as well.
So they done did it again. I cannot believe, but Noops, why not close out our last football pod of the year with another friggin' kicker prop here? But if I like Seattle to score, they done did it again. I got, again, and I know what you're going to say. And before you say that, I will address whatever. But the over 2.5 touchdowns for Seattle is minus 145. The over 2.5 extra points for Jason Myers is minus 118. And I know what y'all are going to say. Well, they could go for two. Well, we just mentioned they went for two 3 times all season. Well, he could miss an extra point. He did not miss a single extra point all season long. He went 57 for 57.
Weather looks perfect, folks.
Over the course of the year. So again, yes, they could go for two for the 4th time all friggin' year. Yes, they you're right. They could do that. The most conservative coach that basically in the league. And Jason Myers could miss his first extra point of the whole season. Yes, I agree with that as well. However, I'm going to bank that the dude who never goes for two doesn't go for two, and the kicker that didn't miss an extra point all season long isn't going to miss an extra point. They did it again. Over 2.5 touchdowns for Seattle's minus 145. Over 2.5 extra points is minus 118.
That's absurd. If over 2.5 touchdowns is minus 145, over 2.5 extra points should be minus 140. So somewhere in that range. You're getting a free 22 cents. I like it. I don't know if I like it as much as the Mevis props we cashed the last couple weeks, but I think that one's pretty good. I didn't have too many other kickers or special team stuff, but This is the Super Bowl, Matt. We do have some goofy stuff. Are you ready for a Cardi B bet?
Let's do it.
Cardi B to appear on the broadcast, I'm seeing over 1.5 times. And in the same way that I find a correlation in the market looks incorrect, Robert Kraft to be showed in the Super Bowl is over 2.5 times. There is a really good chance Cardi B is sitting in Robert Kraft's suite, folks. There's a chance that every time you see Robert Kraft, there is Cardi B. And there's also a small part of me that I just want to see Cardi B as much as possible, folks. If every time there wasn't football going on, they just went to Cardi B cam, I would be happy. I think that especially if Diggs does something in this game, there'll be footage of her freaking out. I don't expect Taylor Swift levels of coverage, but Cardi B, over 1.5 appearances in the broadcast, folks. Get that into your account if you can. With all due respect to our wonderful sponsors who are not allowed to hang bets like that, maybe look elsewhere for that. I'm sure you can find it.
A couple of goofy props, and here's mini handicaps. Not saying to bet these, but mini handicaps, and these are available out there. Gatorade color, all I know is ChatGPT tells me that blue has the most amount of flavors attached to the color. So that's all I can tell you is that there are more blue flavors of Gatorade than there are of any other color. So at least there's a chance from that perspective, because just there's more flavors that are blue than there are any other color. And if you're trying to look at that jersey number of the first touchdown scorer, you're basically handicapping JSN versus the field, because they've set it at 10.5. And Drake Maye is 10. Kayshon Boutte is 3. Stephon Diggs is 8. Ken Walker is 9. Like whatever else. So it's basically the cutoff is JSN and like a lot of everybody else, if you want to play the over under there on that one. So that one's pretty interesting. And then finally, the stupidest prop that I think you might be able to talk me into is a fat guy touchdown, because for whatever reason, coaches lose their minds in big games inside the 5-yard line and want to try to get cute. And even though these coaches are conservative by the most part, we have just seen coaches continually lose their mind inside the 5-yard line and try to run goofy plays when they don't need to. It's 25-1. Probably the stupidest prop you could talk me into throwing a few bucks on.
How do they define that? Is there like a weight of the player to score has to be above a certain number?
300 pounds. Yes.
300 pounds. Gotcha. So we're looking at linemen. That's very interesting to me. My other sort of goofy touchdown prop. I know a lot of people like to bet over 2.5 players to attempt to pass. Forget that. Let's go all the way. Over 2.5 players to throw a touchdown. I talked about Cooper Kupp. Again, was a quarterback in his former life, I believe at the high school level. I don't think quite at the college level, but has thrown touchdown passes in his career. We have seen on both sides of the ball. Again, Cooper Kupp, the Patriots have had a couple other guys throw the ball, and generally coaches don't call goofy pass plays. They didn't run the Philly special at midfield, folks. Even that Tom Brady drop, he catches that. He's walking into the end zone, guys. Over 2.5 players to throw a touchdown, yes, is plus 500. And then, of course, Matt, the most important prop of the Super Bowl, heads or tails?
I don't, and this I have no reason for this. I have always called tails. I don't know why. Like I don't know in my entire lifetime if I've ever called heads.
It's got to be tails. I think tails has won something like 7 of the last 10 years, something goofy like that. And I'm not telling you the Super Bowl coin is rated, but I'm telling you there's a very good chance it is. I'm pretty sure that whoever manufactures this coin every year, whatever stupid design they make sure they put on them, it's got to be almost impossible to design this thing to be equal weight on both sides, to really flip truly here. So it is. It's one of the stupidest bets you could make. Look around. I think our friends at Westgate are offering like minus 102 on something like this. I don't know what Circa's number is. Sometimes they even get down to minus 101. Maybe this is the time to go out on Kalshi or Poly Market and find this at the lowest number you can. It's just a really fun bet. It's something, again, I'm going to put $50 on it just because it's the most exciting few seconds of the season. But it's tails. It's tails almost every year unless the referee does something goofy and, tries to actually flip it. Give me the toss. I like the toss. The toss, nice and high. Give me all those revolutions. Tails.
Guys, we appreciate you being with us all season long. It has been a blast being able to do this with Noops each and every week. Like we said, hopefully we'll be back over the course of the off season. If it's not talking football. It's talking something else. Certainly the NFL draft will be coming back. We'll be getting into all of that stuff, and there'll be certainly some other times for us to get back in here. But tons of stuff still going on at the channel. Obviously, right into NBA season. We'll have March Madness stuff going on as well. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Pretty good year this year. Hopefully, I know you can't make every bet that we make and all of that, but hopefully you got on the good ones and we're able to kind of ride the train here. A lot of people try to tell you can't beat the NFL. And I think that there are people out there maybe who can't beat the NFL because they don't look into different markets and try to discover things and things like that. I think, Noops, we were able to uncover alternate ways to bet games with more favorable lines, with different outcomes and things like that. And, over the course of all of this, we won more weeks than we lost. There were certainly some losing weeks for sure, but we won more weeks than we lost. And it's been an absolute blast, man.
It has, and I echo what you're saying. I think one of our big advantages is, a lot of people think doing a show Friday morning when we don't have injury information hurts us. It actually kind of helps. We get ahead of a lot of line movements. There's so much injury reporting. It's pretty easy to figure this stuff out. And yes, we do play some sides and totals, but if you've gone back and looked throughout the season, I think team totals have been my most popular bet. I think I bet more of those than probably spreads and totals combined. Again, go a little further down the board. I do agree with the general sentiment. You can't beat the NFL if you're betting spreads and totals on Sunday morning. It's more efficient than the stock market, honestly, at this point, folks. But hopefully we've helped you learn some angles, understand some ways to look sort of deeper into things, not just look at more numbers, but try to look at the right numbers and try to put some context around things. And again, if you're ever going to find an edge in any sport, the NFL especially, you need to not only understand all the information, but understand how people are using it, because not everyone uses it the same. And if you can find little ways to look at things differently, to rotate the ball around a little bit and see it from a different side, you have a chance to win. And again, hopefully we've helped you win some money. I know we've won more bets than we've lost in the show this year, but more importantly, hopefully we've taught you how to fish. Hopefully next season you come into the NFL and you come back and watch the show, because we will be back, but you also have a little easier time on your own.
Guys, hit that subscribe button. Leave in the comment section how you're playing the game. What's your favorite bet of the week? Is there anything you think that we missed? Everyone will be reading the comments, so maybe you can lead somebody else to a bet that you're on that seems pretty sharp as well. For Noops, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Super Bowl bets.